there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. In the first hour of the broadcast, I'm going to give you content, information for better sex, more money, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice, more strategies and gambits for having it all. The second hour is what I'm most excited about. It's when I get a chance to chat with you. Yes, you. Where you can call in, talk to me, ask me questions. And if you say the secret word of the day, you could win $5,000 cash. At the very least, if you're the most interesting call of the day, you could also win 10 ounces of freshly minted Marshall Silver 999 Fine Silver. All of that and more. Brand new Mercedes-Benz sedan or SUV up for grabs. My personal Rolls-Royce Phantom up for grabs. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information about its release coming up. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. I'm Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker.
Let me bring our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Hello there. We are live at Marshall Silver Live. So glad to have you with me. It is 10:02 Pacific time, which means you're just getting started with your day. And you're kind of wondering, how should my day go? Well, here's the deal. Your day should go perfectly. It's a glorious day filled with love, health, opportunity, and potential. It is day 2 of my son away at summer camp for the first time. I don't know about you other parents. It's weird to me. It's weird. It's very bittersweet. And life goes on. But isn't that the way that things just change? And the only thing constant is change. On today's show, we got a special guest, and I'm excited about this particular guest because I know a lot of you in the audience can relate. Lindsay Sharma is a real estate investor. She is a wife and mom of 3 little ones. Her days start with a hot cup of coffee and then some crime shows to wrap it up. In between, she's creating real estate deals that pave the path to financial success. She's juggling it all and winning. Nice big Marshall Silver welcome to Lindsay Sharma. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marshall. I'm so excited to be here.
I am glad you're here too. So where are you located right now?
So I'm in Central Florida. I live in sort of a smaller city called Ocala, but it's rapidly growing.
Yeah, Ocala isn't exactly a small town. It is the horse capital of the world. I have a
Yes,
friend,
that's
Robin Thompson, and I'm kind of surprised. Do you know Robin Thompson?
I don't. We've only
So
lived here for about a year.
you definitely need to meet her. Robin is one of the top real estate investment trainers in the country. She has a ranch there. She raises thoroughbreds and race horses, and she has a horse named Mr. Silver. So she's one of my favorite people, without a doubt. You should
You know,
definitely.
actually, her name does sound familiar. I think I've seen her name. Is she a flipper? Is that kind of what the niche she's in?
She
Flipping?
does everything, but yeah, she
Okay.
definitely teaches people how to flip.
Okay. Yeah, I think now that kind of rings a bell.
So a cup of coffee, check. True crime
Yeah.
stories, definitely check for me. What's your favorite?
So Netflix is just, I think they've really caught on to the trend that people are loving this true crime. So they always have good stuff. I'm kind of watching what's new on there. But I do love a podcast called My Favorite Murder. I listen to it a lot when I'm doing mundane things around the house, for my family. So
Yeah. So is your husband frightened?
he's not really involved in my true crime
Oh,
passion,
so you're
but
saying you're covert. That's what you're saying. I came
I'm
in
not
one day.
necessarily.
My wife was watching a TV show called How to Get Away with Murder, and it was right after I'd gotten a very large insurance policy. I'm going, what the heck? What the heck?
I was just going to ask about the insurance policy because from all the true crime I watch, that's one of the things that always happens. Someone buys a big old policy on somebody, and then the person's gone not too long after that. So
Yeah, it's pretty much an indicator of what's about to happen.
yeah. Well,
So
let's
I'm
hope that's
also
not your
glad
case.
you're on today. I've got additional good news that I'm sure you can relate to. Which, by the way, my favorite shows, Dick Wolf. So Law and Order,
Mm,
FBI, any of those shows that he's doing.
those are classics.
Unfortunately, they've become incredibly woke and not nearly as great as they used to be. But I still do like my Law and Order. I wait for it every week. Today, though, I'm celebrating real estate, and I'm celebrating real estate uh, for young mothers. And because my wife today, along with my son, submitted their first offer ever on a piece of real estate.
Wow,
And
that's
yeah,
incredible.
and so it's a monumentous day. We're very excited about all that. So, talk to me about how you juggle everything. I mean, I get it. I don't know how single parents, men or women, I don't know how single parents do it. It's too much work. Raising kids is a full time job. You've got three, I've got three. And my bride is constantly doing something for the kids in the midst of also bettering herself, learning about real estate investing and, getting everything else done, plus taking care of me, frankly. So I don't know how people that are juggling the household, main caregivers, also have any kind of a career beyond that. So let's talk with that balance and that juggling, and how do you pull it off?
Yeah, I would. That's a great question. I love talking about this subject. I think a lot of it is the first thing to start with is taking care of yourself. I always make sure my cup is full because I know that if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't show up well in my business and I cannot show up well for my family. In my household, we're fortunate that all three of our kids are in daycare right now, so that helps, a huge amount. Um, but I'm also a huge fan of delegating. I have a full-time personal assistant who helps me in my business. She helps me with a lot of things like making appointments for the kids, some of their school stuff. My oldest is getting ready to start kindergarten this year, which is going to be a huge transition for us because now we have two different schools to drop our kids off of and pick them up. So I would say self-care. I actually go to the gym 5 days a week before I pick up the kids from daycare. I spend about an hour at the gym. I have a personal trainer. I have a spiritual mental health coach that helps me with all all of the emotions, the stress, dealing with that stuff. So I'm really making sure I'm very intentional about taking care of myself, delegating, and staying very organized.
Where do you suppose most people don't figure out how to juggle those things? My wife, it's not a big deal. She just handles everything. Some people have, one kid and they don't feel like they can do it anything else. They feel overwhelmed. What do you suppose is the deciding factor that makes a person realize, no, this is just life? I know for my wife, she just approaches it joyfully. She thinks it's an honor to take care of the children and to take care of me. But I also think part of that has to do with our relationship. We've got very specific agreements. My agreement is take care of me, I'll take care of everything. And so she doesn't have to worry about making, money. She doesn't have to worry about a whole lot of things that I seek to make her life easier about. Do you think that a lot of people, the core challenge is their relationship or even lack of relationship that makes it so damn hard?
Yeah, that would definitely have a lot to do with it. My husband and I have had several conversations about our roles, our responsibilities. We're very clear about them. We're clear about who needs what and when. And we have a clear, we outsource some of our domestic tasks, but there's others that we still do. And so he has his things, I have my things. He also works full time. I have my business. So we show up as equal partners, and spelling out those roles ahead of time kind of avoids those arguments and miscommunications because we know who's supposed to be doing what and we both show up and do it. I think a lot of problems come when couples agree on something and one person's giving 100% and they're doing all the things and the other is expecting that person to manage or help them and remind them to do it and they're not showing up with that same level of effort. I see that a lot.
What do you love?
What do I love?
Yeah,
What in regards to what?
you choose.
What do I love? I love people. I love building relationships. I think relationships are fundamental to everything in life. That's where we get a lot of our fulfillment and our memories and enjoyment from. So I love people. I think people are at the center of everything. I love learning. I'm constantly learning, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to events and seminars. Um, and I love nature, just going hiking, being out in nature, um, and just trying to live the best life I can in the most joyful and giving way that I can.
Good. What got you into real estate?
Yeah, I love this question. So my background is I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Northwest Ohio. I was fortunate, I had a pretty blue collar working class family. Um, and I was fortunate enough to go to college, taking out student loans. And I've always had like an artistic, creative, um, I guess, talent or natural strengths in. So I pursued a degree in graphic design, and I graduated in 2007. We all know 2008, the financial collapse happened, right? I had very difficult time as a new graduate finding full-time employment that paid decent. My first job out of college was for Penske Truck Rental. I was renting trucks out, and it had nothing to do with my degree in graphic design. And I kind of spent my 20s just job hopping from one misfit job to the next. And I wasn't really finding opportunities as a designer. So I actually started freelancing on the side just because that's what I loved doing. And I wanted to transition into a career as a designer. After doing freelance work, I did eventually work for a small printing company, got some design experience there. And then I eventually started a business where I was a freelance designer. But at that time, I wasn't really learning about business. I didn't have much education in it, and I wasn't running my business like a business. I was running it like a job I was holding for myself. And so I struggled a lot at that time. And so during that time, I was also reading books about personal finance, building wealth, things of that. I was working on my financial literacy. And during that time, I started learning about real estate investing, and I was still reading books. I knew that I wanted to start investing in real estate, but I was single. I didn't have much money. I was struggling with my business. I just didn't know how to get started. I thought you had to have a lot of money to invest in real estate. So I thought, why don't I find a job working for somebody who's already doing this? I could learn from them, also receive a paycheck at the same time I'm learning, and see if this is even something I want to do. So that's exactly what I did. I started searching for jobs. I found one with a local real estate investor. And I was fortunate enough to get hired by him. I was his executive assistant for 3 years. I was involved in every aspect of his business. He was very generous with his time, mentorship, and I actually bought my first investment property while I was working with him. And after a certain amount of time, I was actually pregnant with my third child, and I started getting all this creative energy. And I was like, okay, do I continue working here when I come back from maternity leave, or do I start my own business? And I just felt really ready to start my own business. So I actually started a couple months before giving birth, started, forming my business and my business plan, all of that good stuff. And then started my business, a couple months after she was born.
And so you've been a real estate investor for what? Is that 3 years?
About 4 years. Yeah.
About 4 years? And
Yeah.
you mentioned Robin's doing fix and flips. What type of real estate investing do you do?
Yeah, so I have a buy and hold portfolio. I have some rentals, I have owner finance notes, and then I also do wholesaling, a lot of wholesaling, where I'm getting a property under contract and then I'm selling my rights to that contract to an end buyer, usually a landlord or a fix and flipper.
And what's your average profit on a wholesale deal?
Um, it's roughly around. It's usually about $15,000 to $20,000.
And how many of those do you do a year?
Well, my business has only been around for a year, and when I first started, my main focus was I really wanted to build my portfolio, and I kind of scaled that up pretty quickly, started buying a lot of properties. And then I realized that you got to have money in reserves. There's things that come up with your properties, you have to maintain them. And so then I was like, oh man, I need to start generating a lot of cash for these reserves. And so I started ramping up the wholesaling. So I think in our first year of business, we did about 10 deals. So not a whole lot, but we're ramping up a lot. I'm getting ready to hire a second salesperson full time. So really hoping to scale a lot more within this next year.
A salesperson for the real estate business, or do you have something else going on?
No, 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 for the wholesaling business, an acquisition person. So the person that helps find these deals, talk to sellers, get them under contract.
Got it. So an acquisition specialist.
Yes.
When you talk about an assistant, are you talking about a VA or are you talking about an actual assistant or how does that work?
Yeah, so I have a VA. She is full time. She works 40 hours a week, but she lives in the Philippines.
And and how does she handle the stuff like with your kids? You were mentioning that she handles the kids and their scheduling and such. You guys use a software platform that she uses for scheduling?
So she has access. I give her access to like my calendar, my emails. Um, she has a lot of my personal account information, and I'll say, the kids need this. Look at my calendar, schedule them during these times. She does, all my podcast scheduling. She does a lot of, she just does a lot of different things for me.
So you're on the podcast. I asked you before we started rolling, what would you like to promote? And you said, I don't really promote anything. I just like getting on podcasts. I like talking to people. What is it that you get out of it, and what is it you hope the people that are on the show, watching the show that you're on, get out of it?
Yeah, I just like to, I really love empowering women. I think a lot of women, the way that we're raised in society is, we're not told from an early age that it's important to be financially independent, to make money, to provide for ourselves. And I think even if you're married, a lot of women still want that sense of accomplishment or independence. Um, because it can be hard to depend on somebody, and it may not be the best thing. Who knows, what something could happen to your spouse, and then you have no skills, nothing to rely on. You could be in a bad situation. So I think it's important to empower women. So I like to share my story. Also, I think, something I've experienced that could benefit other people is that, you know, I didn't know how to get started in real estate investing, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I got a job working for somebody. So I think there's always that door. Maybe you don't have money to invest in a course. Maybe you don't want to go back to college, but can you work for somebody who's in the industry you're in? And I just think that's a great strategy that I don't hear a ton of people talking about.
What is your favorite form of real estate investing? You said that you were building a portfolio initially. How many properties are you guys holding right now?
Right now, I have 11 properties. Um, and I mean, I bought all of those in the span of about a year. Um, But I've been learning a lot about multifamily, and I'm really setting myself up to transition into that. I really would like to learn more about syndications, also wholesaling bigger deals, apartment buildings, mobile home parks, hotels, things of that nature. So that's kind of on the horizon for me.
Good. I'm giddy lately. I have a client of mine that does note investing, so both performing and non-performing notes. And just watching the math of notes, and also having dealt with enough bankers of my own, I definitely am looking at it and realizing the money is in the money. And the money is as you know, if you're doing a wholesale deal, you're not really doing real estate. You're finding opportunities for other investors, and that's great, and it's quick, and it works. And the thing that I like about note investing, definitely something for you to check out, is that inside of note investing, you never actually, it doesn't really matter what the property is all about. And so all the things that I don't like about real estate investing, maintenance, dealing with tenants, Even shorter term fix and flips, dealing with contractors and all that stuff is completely eliminated inside of notes. And the other thing about notes is that consistently getting 30, 40, 50%, or even better sometimes 150% returns on the money in a shorter period of time is massively attractive to me. What do you know about notes?
Yeah, so the investor that I was working for and learned mostly everything about, he owned about, I don't know, 60 or 70 notes that he created himself. And he was really transitioning into just purely dealing with notes. And so my first investment deal was a note. I bought an acre of land in a really good school district that had an old broken down vacant mobile home on it. I bought it for $15,000. I sold it on a note for $50,000 to a family who wanted to fix it up and live in it. And so I do have a couple of notes in my portfolio. I understand what you're saying, where the value is in holding the paper. You're essentially the bank, and it's less about the property itself. So there's a lot of benefits to that. There's really creative things you can do with notes, like fraction. I think it's like you can fraction them or sell parts of notes. Really, some really advanced stuff. I don't know a ton about it, but there's a lot of power in sort of being in the banker position.
Without a doubt. And by the way, come to me. Here's how giddy I am about notes. Not only am I excited about, investing in notes and the profitability there, I'm also of the belief that come this November after the election, the poop's going to hit the fan for sure. That no matter who gets elected, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden or even a third party, it doesn't matter. That economically everything's going to hit the fan because nobody has any reason for it to do well. The incumbent, if Biden doesn't win re-election, or if they replace Biden, which I think they're going to do before the election, it doesn't matter. Then they can blame everything on Biden. And if Biden is elected, he doesn't care about his next term because he can't get another term. So what difference does it make? We've seen it repeatedly in every president that has a second term. They just kind of coast through their second term. If Trump gets elected, then even more so that there's a lot of people inside of our political parties that want things to go south the moment he's elected president, and so they can blame it all on Trump. So I think that anybody not bracing or planning for what's about to happen is going to be caught with their pants down. So here's my question to you. It's a real estate related question. My belief in the reason I'm excited about notes, the reason we're launching a note investment training company is my belief is that we still haven't received the fallout from the scamdemic, that we haven't really seen what's about to happen from the lockdowns. Many people, myself included, I took a deferment on the mortgage of my home during the time the lockdowns were going on because I wasn't allowed to be in business. All of my business is live events. So I took a deferment from Wells Fargo, didn't make mortgage payments. They said on their website that they would put those payments on the end of the loan. I said, okay, nobody's at a loss here. They're collecting interest while this is going on. But they surprised me. And how they surprised me was at the end of that period, they sent me a note for all the payments that were in arrears. So they didn't put them on the mortgage. And most people would have freaked out. A lot of people in a similar circumstance would have just handed their property back over to the bank. But I didn't. I hired an attorney and I had the attorney contact the bank and I said, whoa, 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 whoa. This is not your promise. But they had changed their website in the meantime. I had kept evidence of all the things that they posted and said they were going to do. So they immediately reinstated. They put all the payments on the back end of the loan. My thought, though, was how many people were not savvy enough to tell their bank, sorry, you're not going to do that. Talk to my attorney. Because I guarantee you the banks were foreclosing on properties that had high equity. And so now what I think is about to happen is you take all those people that either had their notes deferred or were impacted by the lockdowns who, if they weren't making mortgage payments, they still had to pay their utilities, they still had to buy food, they still had to take care of all their other cost of living stuff, when many of us were impacted and had massive reduction, if not elimination, of our income. So here you got people teetering on the edge. Now their mortgages are due. Their financial position has shifted for the worst. I think those properties are going to go upside down. And I think that right around November is when we're going to start seeing lots of people having to bail on their properties. And I believe that the banks, they don't want the properties. They've already made their investment back and then some because of how the nature of how we pay interest on a loan. And so my belief, those banks are going to be selling those non-performing notes hand over fist. And again, that's why I am personally massively educating myself on all the options available for notes, because I think there's going to be a whole lot of pre-foreclosure properties available. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with that prediction. I can see where that would come into play. I think another thing that's hugely affecting people and their ability to pay their mortgage is obviously the inflation. It's clear that we are America and really the global economy is controlled by mega corporations. We have more of a corporatocracy than a democracy, in my personal opinion, and it's at the point where greed has gotten, the inflation greed has gotten so bad that people are just they're finding alternatives, and you're seeing people selling their homes, downsizing. There's I'm seeing predictions that there's going to be more of a renter class in the United States. You have these hedge funds and equity companies buying up single family homes. So it's just, there's a huge shift coming, but I think the writing's on the wall that there's going to be less people in the United States owning homes for the foreseeable future.
Without a doubt, a lot of people moving into apartments, a lot of people downsizing into condos. And I think that we're going to see a massive amount of those loans going south and a massive amount of banks just trying to pick up whatever they can, realizing that we're going through a major shift. I also think part of what the challenge is that doesn't even take into consideration what's actually happening with the dollar, not just inflation, but what's actually happening with fiat currency worldwide. There's been a lot of rumor that we may have a reset, there may be a change in currency, and I 100% concur that what a lot of people don't know is that the typical longevity for a fiat currency, which all currencies, major currencies of the world, are fiat currencies with nothing behind them, the average lifespan is less than 30 years. We went on a fiat currency with Tricky Dick Nixon back in 1971. So 30 years, what is that? That's 2001. We're almost twice the amount of time any fiat currency historically has lasted. So it's got to reset sooner or later. A lot of times I think people don't understand that prices aren't going up. The value of our dollar is going down. That's what inflation is. It's not the cost of goods going up. It's the value of that dollar that you take to buy the cost of goods. So while a lot of people are investing in real estate, thinking the value of the real estate is going up, that's true. That is absolutely true. But it's not actually the value of the real estate. It's the amount of dollars required to buy that real estate. And so once again, money is hypnosis. And everything, including housing, you bought that property with a dilapidated, old, beat up trailer, basically, on that property, and you're planning on who knows what, but somebody else comes along and says, no, that's our dream house. We just want to fix it up. And so, you triple your money, you triple your investment back on a property. God, that had to feel good and hook you into real estate forever, frankly. But
It
I also
did,
think that,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it did. But before I actually got that first deal, I had 9 properties under contract. Had to cancel every single one of those contracts for various reasons. It was part of the learning process. I either got them under contract for the wrong price, or maybe it wasn't a property that was easy to resell. There were title issues, things like that. So it didn't come easy. I worked really hard. I faced a lot of failure and rejection before I really got that first property.
And don't you think that's the key right there? You didn't stop. You just said, no, I'm going to keep going. And I think most people don't realize life is hard. And to think that it's not hard is just ridiculous. Kind of like parenting. I love being a father. I adore. It's the best part of my life. There's nothing I can think of accomplishing, nothing that would be better than being a good dad. And so, when my kids need time, even in the middle of the day, well, sometimes it feels like a bit of an inconvenience. It doesn't matter, because the moment it feels like an inconvenience to me, my brain immediately says, be glad. There'll be a time when you'll wish they inconvenienced you. There'll be a time when you wish there were dirty fingerprints all over the window, or an interruption in the middle of your broadcast, or any number of things. So just love it and enjoy it. And again, my son being away at camp, only sending that message home even more. And then I started thinking about, what about other areas of our lives that people think, oh, this is too hard? And I'm thinking, what if you didn't have any arms or legs? What if you didn't have any eyes or a voice? That's hard. That's a challenge. Your life isn't hard. You got eyes that see and hands that move. You got legs that still walk. Your life is massively blessed. Quit whining because you get a little bit of resistance from the world, because that's the world's nature. What are your mindsets? When people ask me how I'm doing, I answer always awesome, or fantastic, or perfect, or something like that, because that reminds me that yes, my life is massively blessed. What are some tricks that you use for dealing with everything you got to deal with as an investor, as a wife, as a mother, as a human being?
Yes, I love this question and this topic. You know, being a parent is hands down the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. We don't grow up with education on how to parent, and the emotional level of patience and emotional intelligence it takes, and the fact that you care about your family and your children more than anything in the world. So you put all of this pressure on yourself. And so for me, um, one of the most important things for managing my mindset is continually working on myself. Like I said, I spend a lot of time learning, reading podcasts, reading books. I work on my spirituality, my relationship with God. I meditate. Um, and I try to be very present and aware of my feelings. When I start feeling stressed and frustrated, like you mentioned, the kids are interrupting you, you have plans for the day, and your kids are messing up your plans, and you get frustrated. But then you have to stop and remember, you know, yes, your family is a blessing. The fact that you have your own company, you can stop and do those things. You have control over your life. That is a huge blessing. And so it's keeping things in perspective, slowing down, being aware of those feelings, what are triggering those feelings, and how do we change this? So I spend a lot of time, like I said, just trying to manage my mindset. We all have tough days. We have stressful days. We have, when you run a business, there's a lot of problems that come up that only you can handle. And, for me, sometimes it's taking a break, taking a walk, praying, journaling, and just coming back after I've given myself some time away, to really show up better in the next moment.
And what do you think is the mindset? You mentioned that being a parent is the hardest thing you've ever done. And while different, in my experience, while different, to me, not difficult, but different. It's one of those things, like, again, being a parent means, to me at least, letting them know they're the priority, and dad still has to pay the bills. So I love you very much. And, uh, my studio at the beach house happens to be in my home theater. That's what the background is. And the home theater happens to be subterranean right beneath the garage. For my birthday, I gave myself a Houdini pinball machine, and there's no place in the beach house to put it except in the garage. So it's in the garage. My son, Maximus, is massively competitive. So he likes to go in and play the pinball machine, except I can hear it through the roof. I can hear it through the ceiling. And so, again, it's one of those things that it's an inconvenience to him, but I reminded him, we have a pinball machine. You're not at school, which means you have the freedom to go in and play the pinball machine when I'm not in the studio. And so, it's I think one of the things that I love about being a parent is, yeah, it's challenging, but it's easier than it was for our parents. And what I mean by that is I'm a better parent than my parents were. There's no way around that. I have more resource. I've got a partner, which my parents didn't have each other. They were divorced. And so for so many reasons, I look at this whole process. And again, it goes back to that thing that sometimes people think making money is easy, but it's not. It's not difficult, though. It's just different. This morning, I had a management position that I had to take and say, no, we're going to get this done. And it's not always fun to be unpopular. It's not fun to be an unpopular parent and tell your kid no. It's not fun to be an unpopular team leader and tell your team, sorry, you need to focus on this right now. This is where we are. But those are the things that matter. And I think that, again, it's my wife doing her first real estate offer today. My son and her doing their first deal today. Most people never get around to their first deal. You know that. You did 9 that didn't work out. If you had quit at 9 rather than done 10, imagine where you'd be right now. You wouldn't own one property. You wouldn't have anything. You'd be slaving away at a job, making $40,000 a year, 50,000. You're smart, maybe 80. Except the challenge is it would be something you didn't like, working for people you just put up with. And at the end of the day, less time with your kids than you have now. So do you think that we're just doomed? Do you think 95% of the population will always want to be led around by their nose by the other 5%?
I don't think so. I would say I'm sort of an optimistic person, and um I think I think a lot of us know that we have more potential than what we're living out. Whether you do something about that or not, I think has a lot to do with, has anyone ever stepped into your life and believed in you? Have they provided you with support and resources? People who've had the fortunate, maybe a teacher, a coach, someone to help them in their lives, a lot of times they're able to see their potential. I think most of us have dreams. Some people ignore their dreams and some people go after them. But I would like to think it's more than a small percentage of the population.
Well, I love it. Hey, how do people find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook. It's Lindsay Sharma, and I spell my name Lindsay. Yep, you got it on the screen there. Instagram. And then I also have a website, lindsaysharmaproperties.com. And then, yes, lindsaysharmapropertybuyers.com as well.
Awesome. Hey, before we wrap up the interview, any last things you want to share with our audience?
Um, Not anything I can think of, but I really appreciate this time and this conversation we've had today, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I would love to talk more about notes with you. Like I said, I'm so excited. I'm giddy. I'm flat out giddy about notes, about their return. As a hypnotist, as somebody who studies psychology, I have been looking for a while for kind of what I think is the next chess move. And I'm absolutely certain the next chess move is money. The next chess move is a banking move because so much is in flux inside the banks. The oil selling companies have stopped trading in what's called petrodollars, the US dollar, and they've started accepting other currencies in payment. So what that says is the US dollar is not going to be the universal currency that it always was. And every single American needs to understand money at its deepest levels so that they can then utilize that knowledge and leverage it and make a boatload of money in the process. That's the thing about the lockdowns. Some people got hurt badly. We did, that's for sure. Other people found the pivot, and when they pivoted, massively profited and launched, a different type of business like they've never seen before. So I think really important for people to think about pivot right now. Thanks for being on the show. I have a gift for you. I don't know how often you travel, but I would love to invite you and your business partner, significant other, husband, whomever you like, to come join me at Turning Point as my guest. We got one coming up in Las Vegas, July 16, 17, and 18. Tickets are normally $3,000 a piece, but I'd like to give you a gift of 2 tickets worth $6,000. Just come visit me. I'd love to meet you in person and just say hello, to say thank you for being on the show.
That's great. I love that. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. You have an awesome day.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Life is good. Yeah, I'm giddy. And I have been talking a bit about notes lately. We're all in on investing in notes. And for those of you that don't understand or don't know about notes, before I wrap up today's show, I want to give you a little bit of a lesson in exactly how notes work. So let's start off with some simple math so you understand. Note investing is not investing in real estate. It's investing, just like it sounds like, in the note, in the debt on that property. So let me help you understand a little bit of how it works and why it works so well, and the reason you need the knowledge of how to invest in notes. And I'd like to be the guy that gives it to you. Selfishly, I want to be the one you look back years from now and say, Marshall Silver changed my life on that day on his show. So, little crash course in understanding notes. Uh, let's imagine that you want to buy $1 million home. And so you go, you find the house. To buy the house, traditionally, you'll put down 20% to buy the home. So you put down 20%, and then you go take out a mortgage for $800,000 for the balance. Well, since you're buying the house from somebody, they got your $200,000, and they also got the $800,000 that you borrowed from the bank, so that they got their $1 million cash out selling that home. You put $200,000 cash into buying that house, so you're out the $200K. You took out a mortgage from the bank. The moment you took out that mortgage, guess what? The bank profited $200,000. Why? Because you don't own that house. Oh, yes, I do, Marshall. I just have a mortgage on the house. No, you don't own that house. The bank still owns that house until you pay off the mortgage. And it doesn't matter how much of the mortgage you pay off, unless it's all the mortgage. You can pay off $999,000 and still owe the bank $1,000 and stop paying. And guess what? The bank owns your house for $1,000. Not to mention, there's more. But wait, there's more. Here's the more. So you take out that $800,000 mortgage, and if you're like most people, you took out a 30-year mortgage, 30-year note. In that 30-year note, and this is just rounded numbers to help you understand how this process works, in 15 years of paying your monthly mortgage payment, you at about 8%, because that's about what it is right now, high sevens, 8%. At 8%, just for simple math, you will have paid down after 15 years $200,000, 25% of your $800,000 mortgage, which means you still owe the bank $600,000. But you paid back $1.2 million to the bank. The bank loaned you $800,000. You paid back the $800,000 that you borrowed, and you paid back $400,000 more. So the bank has now received a 50% return on your money. Now, granted, it's over the course of 15 years, so it took them a while to get that, but they got 150% of their money back, plus they still own your house. They still have a $600,000 note on your house. So what do? Write this down. Money loves speed. Money loves speed. Money is the money. That's the fact. So they have a $600,000 note. You've paid back $1.2 million. They're $400,000 in the green net. They just want cash because the bank knows the money is in the money. So the bank just wants to move money as fast as it can because the bank makes their money on those transactions and on the speed of the money. So they have a $600,000 note on a house worth, let's say the house didn't even appreciate. It stayed right at $1 million. Even if it was that, they have a house worth $1 million on the hook, but the house probably appreciated. Let's say it only went up in 15 years, 20%. That's reasonable. So the house went up 20% in 15 years. The house is now worth $1.2 million. You still owe $600,000 in principal on the house. The bank says, you know what? We've made a lot of money. Things have changed. We just want cash. We want to pour cash into something else because there's another one around the corner. And so they sell that note for $600,000 for $400,000. So somebody comes in and they buy the note. They don't buy the house because they don't care about the house. They buy the note. Why buy a note that's worth $600,000 for $400,000? Well, that's obvious. It's worth $200,000 more than you bought it for. So the moment you bought it, you increased your value 50%. But you're not done yet. Remember, you bought the note $600,000 for $400,000, so you're already $200,000 up. You also, though, bought a house, the note on a house worth 1.2. So you actually bought a $1.2 million home if they default or if they give up and give it back to you. You bought a $1.2 million home for $400,000. If they default, you've got the home as security. Your money's 100% secure. If they keep making payments, guess what? They're making payments on the interest of that note. So all of that is pure profit. Eventually, they got to pay you back that $600,000 that you got for $400,000. But let's imagine you two decide, the house is worth 1.2. They go back, they refinance it with you. They take out another $200,000 because they have equity in the house. Now they got a note for 1.2. You've got you've loaned them an additional 200,000, but they owe you 1.2 now. You take that 1.2 and you sell it for, I don't know, $800,000. Well, you made the interest payments. You made all that profit. Plus, you also just made an additional $200,000 on your money above the $400,000. Plus, you sold it for $8. That's another $200,000. You just doubled your money cash out the door, plus all the interest payments. Do you see why I'm giddy about notes? The money is in the money, 100%. And I'd like to be the guy that teaches you. If you'd like more information about investing in notes, here's what I want you to do. Contact my office, AC@CertaintyInc.com or support@CertaintyInc.com. Either one, support@CertaintyInc, or call the office, 1-800-92-POWER, and tell them I want more information on note investing. We've got a phenomenal program that we're launching right now. It is the focus of what I am doing. It is the greatest opportunity we have ever seen. And yes, Dustin, today, contact the office today. I'm telling you, I am betting the farm on notes right now because I believe that's where the money is in real estate. Hey, I'm Marshall Silver. You are totally loved. I'd like to be the guy that makes you a billionaire with a B, billionaire. And all you got to do is keep hanging out. Once again, if you would like to join us at Turning Point coming up in July, the 16th through the 18th in Las Vegas, speaker training coming up as well. Also, we've got an inner circle going on right now. You are totally loved. I'm Marshall Silver. I'll see you on tomorrow's show.
Hey there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show coming up 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. I'm going to give you content, information, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice for having it all. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. So stay tuned.